Welcome to Small Business, Big Results, a show where we share stories from small business owners and fast-growing startups. I'm your host, Brian Dean, and today I have Benji Hyam with me. So, welcome, Benji.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Benji is the co-founder of Grow and Convert and Wordable.io. Previously, he ran marketing at two venture-backed startups in San Francisco. I'm super excited to have you on today's show, Benji, because as a growth marketer, I know you're going to bring a lot of value to today's topic, which is how businesses can boost online traffic that actually converts. Now, it's easy to think that a steady increase in website traffic over time is a measure for success for small businesses. And yeah, that's partly true, but what really matters is what those visitors do once they ultimately land on your website. And one of the reasons that I wanted to have you on the show is that you have sort of a contrarian view on keyword selection and just content marketing in general. So let's just jump right into your sort of outlook on this. And why do you think focusing on bottom of the funnel keywords is important and not done enough?
Yeah, I think that stems back to earlier in my career when I ran marketing for those two venture-backed startups. So I had the opportunity to join the first company as the fourth employee. And being the only marketer on the marketing team, I had to wear multiple hats. And we knew content was one of the ways that we wanted to grow the business. And so when we started doing content and publishing, I was also responsible for calling all the leads that we were generating from the content. And I started to notice the trend that some of the better leads came from specific pieces of content. And the aha was that most of these were more of the bottom of the funnel type queries. And so, for example, the company was a software development company, actually. And I had done a lot of customer research before we started doing the content marketing. And one of the things that I thought was interesting is the people who were looking to develop apps, one of the big questions that they always had was, which platform should I build on first? Should I build on iOS or Android? And so we created this blog post that went after that search term. And I just knew that those people were more ready to buy at that stage in the funnel. And so that was kind of the first inkling I had to the bottom of the funnel stuff. And then now fast forward to our agency, we actually started doing the complete opposite in our agency. So in the very beginning, we were producing these stories that we thought would be really interesting to the target audience of whatever company that we were marketing for. And then we would promote it through community content promotion. So manually sharing these articles in communities where we knew the audience was hanging out and would drive traffic back to the site. Simultaneously, we had also created a couple SEO stories, and we looked in analytics and noticed that those ones were just converting at a way higher rate. And so we started producing more of these, and we saw the same trend. And over time, we couldn't see the same conversion results coming from those stories. While those stories did really well on the traffic side, they didn't really convert really well. And then we kind of did this across multiple accounts and saw the same results. And so we just doubled down on that approach because that seemed to be working to drive conversions.
Great. And I just want to highlight a couple of things that you mentioned there and ask a follow-up question. First of all, talking to customers is sort of an untapped keyword research strategy. A project that I'm working on now, I recently had a customer call, and a customer referred to what we do as alternative data, as an alternative data source. And that's something that never crossed my mind in terms of what we do. And it just was something that no keyword research tool can really give you that information. Once you have the keyword or the topic, you can drill down into it, but it's just an untapped way to sort of brainstorm keyword ideas. The other thing I want to sort of zero in on and ask a follow-up question is, what's the search volume sort of ratio you're looking at between these story pieces that got a lot of traffic or pieces that you target for SEO and these sort of like really targeted bottom of the funnel keywords? Like, what are the kind of keyword volumes we're looking at?
It can really range depending on the type of company. But I would say for most of our clients, we're looking in the sub 100 range. Okay. And depending on the keyword, potentially even no volume, 10 volume, 20 volume. And I think people often latch on to just such a low search volume and say, okay, if something's 10 volume or 20 volume, is it even worth going after? This is a question that we often get from our clients. 2 points to that. One, the conversion rate on these blog posts, because they're so bottom of the funnel, is typically 5 to 10x that of those more top of the funnel queries. And then the second thing,
that's absolute conversion rate, right? That's not relative to the traffic. That's just straight up. This one's getting 10,000 visitors a month. This one's getting 100, and it's still outperforming.
Yeah, we've seen that. Yeah, we've seen that constantly. So a lot of the bottom of the funnel posts, we just did an analysis on this, can convert 4 to 10% plus. So if you're thinking even just comparing that to a landing page, you're getting pretty equivalent conversion rates as like compared to a landing page. And then the second point to that is that the search tools that estimate this, they're often just estimates. And so we're often seeing, even if something shows as no volume in any SEO tool or 10 volume in any SEO tool, we're seeing search volumes that are way higher if you're able to rank for those queries. And so the combination of the higher traffic from those queries with the higher conversion rate can yield you pretty substantial results, as opposed to going after the very high volume search queries that have lower buying intent.
Yep. And sometimes really no buying intent. Like for Backlinko, I built that business largely on top of the funnel stuff. But the difference was it took a whole sort of sequence to get a conversion. It was, getting someone to read a piece of content maybe once, maybe twice, signing up for the email list, dripping them content over time, and then months down the road they would convert. So the conversion on that post was very low, but in aggregate, it ended up working out over the long term. But if you want people that land on your website to buy, this is, in my mind, one of the reasons, like I said, I wanted to have you on, Benji, is an untapped strategy, because a lot of people are just pumping out more top of the funnel stuff, and their traffic's going up, but the conversions are kind of flat. I've seen that happen a lot. Traffic's going up, everything seems good, but conversions are flat, and sometimes it's missing that secret ingredient, which are these bottom of the funnel terms. And your traffic isn't going to go up or down that much, based on these, like you said. But your conversions will, if you are choosing the right ones, which leads me to my next question.
Sure.
So you have these sort of bottom of the funnel keywords. Forgetting search volume for a second, because like you said, you don't take that into account too much. How do you go about choosing your bottom of the funnel keywords to start with?
Yeah, so at the beginning of any engagement with a client, what we do is we talk to different members on the team. So we talk to the sales team, we talk to the marketing team, talk to product, and what we're trying to figure out is, why are people buying the product? What are some of the objections? Who are the alternatives? What's the main competitive advantage of the product? And armed with that information, then what we do after that is do keyword research. And what we're trying to find is those keywords that indicate a certain feature that people would buy if it's a SaaS product, a certain reason that someone would buy a service if it's a service business, who the alternatives are, because that can open up competitor keywords. And that's the lens that we're looking at the keyword spreadsheet. It's not by sorting by volume. It's really looking at all the available,
or anything, those traditional metrics.
Exactly. It's looking at all the available keywords and then trying to figure out which ones are the most high intent. So which ones have the indicator that someone would actually buy this product or service, and then that's what we're prioritizing for. So what we're typically doing is looking for those high intent combined with the highest volume, and then we're knocking those ones off first, and we'll take multiple bets there. So we'll do different styles of keywords, so maybe alternative type keywords, maybe software type keywords. Can you
explain what that is to people that don't know alternative style keywords? What is that?
Sure. So alternative style keywords, let's say you had a SaaS product and someone was already a user of a competitor SaaS product.
Yep.
Oftentimes what they would search for is, let's say, your product name, alternatives, because they're looking for other products that do the same thing. So you just know that those have higher buying intent if you can rank for those, because if your product can take the place of another one, then people are more likely to check you out and potentially use yours.
Yeah,
if you can rank
that's for me, like just the bottom of the funnel world. That's the most accessible, easy, straightforward way to get started to me, because like you're saying, there's a certain art to choosing these. Like you find these bottom of the funnel keywords that are options. choosing them is tricky because, like I said, it's a combination of that sort of buyer intent with volume. But when you just go with X alternatives, you don't even need to worry about that stuff. It's an absolute no-brainer, home run. You should be ranking for those terms. Like someone's literally searching for your competitor alternatives, you're one of them. It makes sense to put it out there. Whether or not you rank is a different story. But for me, that's like the best way to sort of get started with this bottom of the funnel keywords. Like list your competitors and just go for X alternatives. And then, do it for as many competitors as you have, even ones that are a little bit niche, maybe, it only gets a few searches a month. But if they're a competitor and someone's searching for a competitor and you're one of them or an alternative, I mean, it's a no-brainer, and you don't need to worry about this sort of art and science of buyer intent. It's just, it has sort of built-in buyer intent.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Yep. So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about once someone lands on the page. This is another thing that I think you and Davish look at things a little bit differently. For most people who are in the content marketing SEO world, you want your blog post to be the best. You want it to be 100% pure value. You don't want to sell, and you don't want to pitch your products and services in the blog post. Maybe have a couple CTAs, but for the most part, it's value. And your approach is more like, if people want a product, let's just show them a product. If they want an alternative, why not just pitch ours? And can you explain that sort of approach?
Yeah, so we do the opposite. We sell in a lot of the blog posts, and I think that's just a function of the bottom of the funnel approach. So if you're ranking for a high intent keyword, so for example, if you're QuickBooks and you start ranking for accounting software or payroll software or whatever the keyword is that shows the high intent, someone is already in the mindset of looking for the best product out there that can solve this problem. And so we think it's better to pitch the value prop of your product and potentially compare it against all the alternative options to help someone make the decision. So I think it's just a different way of looking at that keyword. We still think we're educating people. We're just doing it through selling the value props of the product that we're marketing. And I think that's yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to jump in and say, and you're still satisfying search intent. You're giving Google what it wants. You're giving Google searches what they want. But you're actually looking at what they want instead of just assuming that you need to create this objective piece of content that's all just providing value for free and then crossing your fingers and hope they convert. Instead, you're saying, look, the search intent is actually they want to buy something. I mean, look in the physical world. People looking for like product reviews, they want to buy that product or they're interested in buying that product. So there's nothing wrong with saying if you do recommending that product in the post, and those rank well because it's the same thing. But I feel like for some reason in B2B and even B2C, just content marketing in general, we're sort of like afraid to sell in content because I think people tried to do that back in the day in informational content, and it didn't match search intent for informational keywords.
100%.
So it didn't work. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about these totally different, this category of keywords where people have buyer intent. They want to buy something. So I think people assume that the people reading the content don't want to be sold. But I think the readers are smarter than people assume. Like if you're writing it on behalf of a company and they're on your website, I think they know all the content that you're producing is for the end goal of selling the product or whatever. So I think from an education standpoint, I think you should just assume that someone already knows about your company. They know that the goal is to sell something. And so I think you should just put your best foot forward and try to educate people why your product is better than all the alternatives. And if it's not in certain areas, also just be honest there and say, if this product is better for this purpose, then use this product. If you're coming in for this specific reason, our product is better for this reason and this reason. Yeah, that's a good point. So it's not just like our product's the best thing ever and everyone else is terrible. It's honesty. It's saying, look, if you're in this category, we're perfect for you. If not, there might be another alternative on this list. That way you're satisfying search intent and your rankings stay in place, right? If you just say you're the best thing ever, the search, it's not going to match search intent because people do want a semi-objective look. Like they understand, like you said, that you're not going to be objective, but they want you to describe what makes you different. Like just put it out there. Just tell me what makes you different. Who are you for? Who are you not for? That way I can help me make a decision. So that makes total sense and a really good insight there. So when someone lands on the page, what are some things you do besides just describing your product to get them to convert from blog content? Because like you mentioned, your blog conversion rates can be up to 4%, 8%, which is like a landing page. How do you do that in a blog post?
Yeah, so one thing to note is that when we're talking about conversion, we're not talking about conversion to an email list. We're talking about a conversion to either a demo or a trial sign up, or if it's a service business, to reach out and contact us. So those are those conversion rate numbers. It's not just an email sign up. So I think it's a few things. It's one, getting the topic right, because I think the topic, from what we've seen, is the biggest indicator of whether something will convert or not. And then when you get someone onto the page, we try to put calls to action in different places in the content that relate directly to either the query or what we're talking about in the post. So again, if we had ranked for that accounting software example and someone lands on the page, we're making the pitch for why you should use QuickBooks. After the first couple paragraphs introducing the blog post, we'll mention a value prop of the product. Like if you're interested in using the best accounting software on the market, or whatever the value prop is, sign up for a free trial here. Then we're doing that in the middle of the post and at the very bottom of the post after someone's read it. And just those simple inline CTAs that don't really look like marketing. We're not doing crazy pop-ups or anything like that. We found to convert the best. And so
they're just links, right? They're just links to a landing page, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So everything's contextual to the blog post, and so we try to customize the CTA to whatever we're talking about, whatever the value props we're talking about in that blog post. We're also sharing that in the CTAs.
Mm-hmm. So let's just talk a little bit about, besides the bottom of the funnel stuff, what do you think businesses can do to sort of stand out from the pack when it comes to marketing in general? Like when things getting so much more saturated, and even platforms getting saturated so quickly like TikTok, what are some things you've seen that businesses have done where they're doing a good job of standing out?
Yeah, I would say it all comes back to positioning. And that's where I feel like a lot of businesses don't spend enough time, is they don't try to figure out what makes them unique and different than all their competitors, so that they can shout those unique differentiators to the market. And so when it comes to content, if they don't have unique positioning, it becomes really hard to write content that makes them stand out. Same thing, if they don't have unique positioning or something different about their business, even if you're to do ads or any other channel, it becomes really difficult to stand out because you become a Me Too business. You're the same as what everyone else is saying about whatever you're selling. And so I would just say companies should really spend a lot of time doing competitive research and trying to figure out what other businesses are doing in the same category, and then unique ways that you can stand out. And that those unique ways can be from a product perspective, from a marketing perspective, from the way that you describe what you're selling. Even if you have a product that is very similar to others, you can describe the way that you do it differently. So like a good example of that would be when Dave Gerhard joined Drift, and it's not just a chatbot, it's a conversational marketing tool. While the technology does the same thing, he made people think about it in a unique way. And I would say that's probably the area that I would spend the most on if I were in marketing and doing marketing for a company as a way to stand out.
Yeah, that's really good. I just want to highlight a couple of things because there's a lot of good information there. One is that if you can create a category, even if the category exists, you own that term forever. Like Drift was a great example. HubSpot created inbound marketing. You know, there's so many examples of companies and people that have coined these sort of categories or tactics or whatever, and then they're forever yours. And that's actually just as powerful because it's powerful in two ways. First of all, when you're looking at different ways to increase, let's say, conversions on your website, and you see a bunch of chatbots that all are saying, we're, the cheapest, we're the best, we're whatever. And then you see this one that's like, we're a conversational marketing tool. You pause, and which is really a powerful thing when people are looking at different options, to get someone to pause and pay attention to what you're doing. The other is the long term, that you own that space forever. You create this little niche category and then you own it forever. You'll always be associated with it. So you've kind of stood out in the sea of competitors just by creating sort of this new category. Another way to position uniquely that you didn't mention that I wanted to point out is who do you target? Who do you serve? Who is the best fit for this product or service? Like that is in some ways the most powerful way to do it, because you can look at like if you're creating a new CRM, for example, you can look at the landscape and say, oh man, we're going to create this new feature where people can search with different industries. People can search by job title. People can, all the contact information is verified. You can contact people within the platform. Well, even with all that's going to be hard to stand out. But if you're like, we're CRM for like B2B sales people or B2B SaaS salespeople, you're just going to stand out so much more, because then you can incorporate features that can say, you can book a demo, you can do the demo inside the CRM, you can put your, tie it to the client, the lead, how much of the demo they watched, all this stuff that's specific to B2B SaaS. Did they sign up for a trial? What did they do in their trial? How active are they? Did they add new users? You can see that all in the CRM. Now you're seeing, I just made this up, but this is already like a powerful way to position yourself. If you're a salesman in that space, you're going to be much more likely to choose what I just described than Salesforce, even though Salesforce is a publicly traded company, and I would do this on sort of a shoestring budget. So that's just another way to position that. Sometimes a little bit easier than trying to outfeature somebody.
Yeah, and I feel like companies should do more of that, because I think there's a lot of broad software companies, and I think just being more specific, you can capture, you can be the best in a smaller market.
Yep. So my last big question before we get into the rapid fire. So what do you use, or is it tools or just approaches to find where another competitor or a client that you took on, where the audience is spending time and in which channel? So take out SEO for a second. Do you look at this and see where their audiences are spending time, or where the best way to get in front of their audience is outside of SEO?
We used to a lot. So as I mentioned, we did something called community content promotion when we started our agency. And so we would do the customer research and try to find out, are there certain Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, Reddit communities? Now it's a little bit different. I'm sure there's Discords and all sorts of different channels that you can look inside of. And then what we would try to do is join those communities and become a member of those and try to join into the conversation and share content there. I think that was something we did a lot in the very beginning. I think it's become a lot harder because there's a lot more people trying to infiltrate these communities just for marketing purposes than they used to. But I would say now, because our agency has shifted so much more to the SEO realm, that we don't do that as much anymore. I think now just finding people is just a function of picking the right keywords. And so we know that if we can find the right keywords, that we can get in front of people when they're searching for these topics. And that's the way that we're doing almost all of our promotion these days. One other thing that we're doing is we do experiment with a little bit of paid promotion as well. On Twitter, Quora. Quora is something new that we're testing that has been pretty interesting. Just to drive traffic to these articles before we're able to get the articles to rank for the keywords that we're going after. So we do it in a few ways. So Google Ads, can we pay for placement on these keywords before we're ranking for them? Same with Quora. Can we pay for placement around these keywords before we're ranking for them? And we use that as a way to drive short-term traffic to our articles prior to getting them to rank. And so this is typically something that's done in the first 3 to 6 months after publishing until we're able to get the article to rank for the keyword. And then the paid ads typically go away because the long-term scale all comes from SEO. And so, like I said in the very beginning, we historically had a very different approach that didn't focus on SEO. But what we realized is SEO was the real scalable channel to grow traffic and conversions. And so now we've shifted almost all of our budget and effort over to the SEO side of things.
Yeah, which makes sense, because if you're going like when you're just getting started, if you're like scrappy, just trying to get going, it can kind of make sense to do this outreach or community posting, or even one-to-one. Like when I started Backlinko, I used to send 150 emails every time I published a post to people, non-spammy. Before the post came out, I would say, hey, I have a post coming out this week, and would you like to read it? And what I did is I found people that shared something similar on Twitter, and then I would email them. Now, this is before outreach got really annoying. Like, it was a little bit annoying then. Now it's like really crazy. But when I did it, it was still relatively new. And even then I knew you had to do something a little different to stand out. So instead of pushing the article and asking for a link or asking for a share, I would kind of leave it up to them and say, I don't even have anything to share right now. Like, I just have an article coming out. Are you interested in seeing it when it comes out? And that way people sort of opted in, as opposed to me shoving something in their face. And it worked well. Because people would say, yes or no or whatever, and then I'd send it to them, and they would be much more likely to share it because they felt like they were sort of involved in the whole thing. Like, they got a sneak peek, they got early access, because when it came out, say, you're the first to see this, like, here you go. But like you said, the scalability is really tough, because even 150 was really tough. I was still, like, sometimes it was the same person and I didn't want to reach out to them. At the end of the day, it all comes back to SEO. Like, SEO is just people literally searching for you. It's like being a hunter-gatherer or working on a farm, right? It's like, you can be a hunter-gatherer and go out there and hunt, fine. But it's really hard to scale that. Or you can just build a little farm and people come to you. That's sort of what the difference with SEO is.
One other thing that we did in the very beginning that I think companies can learn from it and do as well, go interview people in your industry that have a larger audience than you. And it's not to say go after the people that have 100,000 followers on Twitter or 500,000, a million. Go interview people that are, let's say, if you're 1,000, 10,000 followers, and then after you've produced the piece about them and truly make it about them and try to add value to them, and then share that article with them and try to get them to share it to their email list and to their Twitter followers and leverage someone else's audience. And we did that a lot to grow our own site, Grow and Convert, in the very beginning. And I used that at multiple startups, interviewing subject matter experts who had a following in various areas, and then try to tap into those people's audiences. And I feel like it's not done well anymore, and it is something that is somewhat scalable. And so if you chose not to take the SEO route, that is a good scalable approach that you could use.
Yeah, and it's not really transactional. I think that's actually why people struggle with it. Like, you're not paying someone for a link or sending 100 outreach emails and hoping for a 1% conversion rate. Like, you want to help this person. You want to build a relationship with them. Like me and you, man, I don't remember even how we got in touch, but I'm sure it was something along those lines where we were like, hey, let's do something together. And we're in the same industry, so let's do an interview. And the sneaky thing about an interview, the powerful part, is that if you just email someone and say, hey, can I talk to you for a while? They're going to say no, right? What are you, weirdo? But if you say, I have a podcast or a YouTube show, and I would want, you can come on and we'll talk about your subject matter expertise for half an hour, then they're much more likely to say yes. Especially the real secret ingredient is tied into something they're recently interested in. Because a lot of these influential people, I'm like an SEO guy, and there's other people who are like Facebook ads, and other people who are like paleo diet people, but they kind of go in ebbs and flows, and they're interested in different stuff. Like right now I'm interested in like churn and SaaS and learning all this other stuff. So if you reach out to me and said, hey, I noticed you've been posting a lot on Twitter about like SaaS and churn and things like that, would you like to come on and talk about some things you learned? I'd be much more likely to say yes than just being like, can we do another SEO sort of show? So it's just another way to sort of get your foot in the door. It helps you stand out, and they're more likely to say yes. And when you're in the early days of trying to get something going, this bottom of the funnel keyword stuff is helpful. And to a lot of people, this is the first content you should create. I don't necessarily agree with that, Benji, but I think there's a case to be made that that's the first content you should create. But if your site is just totally brand new, you have no authority, no audience, no anything, it can still sometimes be hard to rank for those keywords, even if they have no keyword difficulty whatsoever, because you don't have any authority. Like, you can't rank for anything. And these are sort of like, in the beginning, these scrappy things can help, but there needs to be a flip that you switch and say, no more. Like, I'm past this now. And to scale, I need to start doing this other stuff.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's definitely nuance to the bottom of the funnel approach. If you started with zero domain authority and you're only putting out bottom of the funnel content, like, there's not going to be a lot of people linking to your site or anything like that. And so I would say if you're in that stage, you'd probably need to create a mix of some more controversial stuff, things that are unique that people would link to, combined with the bottom of the funnel approach. But I would say we typically work with most bootstrap businesses, and if you do have a decent amount of domain authority, 20s, 30s, something like that, I do think the bottom of the funnel approach can outperform. And it's not to say that we exclusively go after bottom of the funnel. It's just a way of thinking about prioritizing the keywords. And so we think about prioritizing bottom of the funnel first and then working your way up the funnel, because as you go up the funnel, it typically gets more competitive as well. And so taking this approach, you can rank for keywords easier that have higher intent, so you can drive results much faster. And then you work your way up to trying to own those harder to rank for keywords.
Yeah, that's really good. I just want to highlight something that Benji said, because if you did, like, it doesn't sound like a big deal. Okay, if I go over the top of the funnel keywords first or bottom of the funnel keywords first, what's the difference? Well, it's night and day, like you mentioned, Ben, because if you're go after these top of the funnel keywords, it can take years to rank, especially if you don't have any authority. And sometimes even if you do. And during that time, your traffic is zero. Like, you're just flat that whole time. And then you hit the bottom of the funnel and all of a sudden it goes up. Versus getting that bottom of the funnel keywords, or just low competition keywords in general first, getting a little bit of traffic, and then working your way up the competition ladder as you go over time. That's something I did with Backlinko when I first started. I targeted keywords like link building strategies, high quality backlinks, on-page SEO techniques. These weren't really competitive at the time. Like, people weren't really targeting these sort of long tail versions of these keywords, and it worked really well. And then over time, I was able to level up and go for backlinks and link building, local SEO, and all these super competitive keywords. But if I did the opposite, it would have been really difficult to get any traction whatsoever. Really impossible to rank for those keywords without getting that sort of early traction first. So yeah, that's a really important point. You want to go with the bottom of the funnel or just low competition stuff in general if you're first starting out, and then sort of work your way up the list. Because another reason these are competitive is because these keywords have so much search volume. People see them in the tools and they all go after them, right? Like, that's one of the reasons they're so competitive. Well, by sneaking in, by going for those keywords everyone else is ignoring, you can have a lot of success pretty early on.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's move on to our rapid fire question. So let's dive right in with the first one, which is, what's your favorite book?
This book called Shantaram. It's a fiction book. I don't know. Have you read it?
Yes, and I think they're making a movie out of it.
Oh, they might be. Yeah, I think it's been in talks for a long time, but the book is amazing. Highly recommend it.
Yeah, it is. I saw a trailer for a TV show, a movie for it the other day. So are there any kind of niche weird things that you're curious or nerding out on right now?
Yeah, I've been big into trading, investing for the last 5 years. My specialty is technical analysis, so I would spend probably half of my day working on Grow and Convert and the other half looking at charts, which is pretty nerdy.
Good. That definitely checks the nerd box. What's the best compliment you've ever received?
Being asked to be on the show.
Oh, that's a good one. How many hours of sleep do you get every night?
I shoot for 8. I'm in bed by 10:30 latest every night.
Okay, same. What's your go-to lazy dinner?
I actually don't do lazy dinners. I cook everything from scratch. Go to the farmer's market, try to have as healthy ingredients as possible. So right after this, I'll be cooking a nice lunch for myself.
Nice. We should hang, man. We are like the total nerds. I cook all the time, and I go to bed super early. So we
I guess I'll have to come to Portugal.
5:30 p.m. dinner and go to bed at 9:30.
Perfect.
So what's something that you wish you knew when you were 20?
I would just say have more fun. I think everything falls into place the way it's supposed to happen. And there were a lot of times in my career, even before I started Grow and Convert, where I was interviewing for different jobs and they kept falling through. And at the time, I couldn't really figure out why things were happening the way that they were. But that's all those experiences and negative experiences specifically led me to where I'm supposed to be today. And so I don't know. I think two things: have fun in your 20s, and the second would just be, kind of just go with the flow and just know that everything will work out the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, that's ultimately the best advice, because it just takes a lot of the pressure off. But at the time, it's hard to really see the big picture because you don't know where you're going to end up. So what time of day do you get your best work done?
Always mornings. I'm probably the first one up and working at like 6, 7 a.m. Yeah. Wow, nice. Yeah. So what occupation, other than what you're doing now, obviously, would you like to try? Yeah, I would get into trading more as a full-time job if I wasn't in marketing. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that's it, Benji. Thanks so much for coming on the show. You dropped a ton of knowledge bombs, and I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.